And that slowly fading song is Rush with The Big Money off of Power Windows. And before that was Taiketo with Big Money off of Reach. And I had a couple of other songs queued up that I didn't get to play. Depending on how we do in the next half an hour talking about wrestling, if there's some time left before the top of the next hour, maybe I'll squeeze one or two of them in. But otherwise, if you want more music, you'll just have to come back next week. And I'll mark these songs down as we won't neglect them altogether. I'll play them next week so that you won't miss them. There is a song by Gamma Ray, a song by Advance, and a song by Saga I had ready to go and didn't get them in. They'll get their turn next week. I have no idea what the theme for next week's show will be. Maybe there won't be a theme. If it snows between now and then I'll be angry about that, and I'll probably make a list of songs about ice and winter and all that miserable stuff. So thanks for listening to Mostly Metal. I am here on WVLP. We're at 103.1 FM, the low power FM. That is, our gerbils are working hard, but they're getting tired. And you can also hear us at WVLP.org. You can catch us on the apps that gather radio stations, like the TuneIn Radio app. So there's no excuse not to be listening to this station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are small, but we are mighty, I guess is the way to say it. But that wraps up Mostly Metal. And now I have Kyle Kaler in the studio, patiently waiting to start talking about wrestling. And hopefully he's going to be one of these people that once I get him talking, he won't want to stop, and we will easily make it till 9:45 or 10 talking about wrestling. But let's switch things over here to the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program.
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
And welcome. Surprise, it's Ken the Metal Professor again. And instead of Mostly Metal, this is the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. And I have to sort of reintroduce myself and pretend like we're starting a new show, because once we're done talking about wrestling here, the talk portion of this 2-hour block that I do then can get put on YouTube. And it needs to sound like a brand new thing. I can't put the music portion of the show on YouTube, or I'd get shut down right away for copyright infringement and all that silly stuff. But so it is time to talk about wrestling, which is one of the things that I love to watch and be around. And with me is Kyle Kaler, who loves to be part of it. So thank you for coming in.
Again, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
So you were actually a wrestler.
Yes.
Is performer, worker? What's sort of the buzzword if you don't want to say wrestler?
I actually prefer the term professional wrestler.
Uh-huh.
Many of what you would call the Fed, or I guess WWE would call it, would be a sports entertainer. Mm-hmm. Other terms for it might be worker, performer, you could say. But I generally prefer the term professional wrestler because, in a sense, that's what our business started as, and I like to stay as true to that as possible.
Okay, good. Now, how long have you been doing this?
I have been in just over a year now. I made my official debut on November 6th of last year, and I began my training in January of last year. So I trained for about 10 months, and then I had my official debut November 6th.
Okay, and in a little while we'll get into what's a pretty impressive geographical spread of where you're getting out and about to do this already after just a year. But we'll kind of start from scratch here, because a lot of folks listening may not have been to local wrestling shows, and if they have, they may not have been to one that you've been on yet. So just generally speaking, if somebody is going to go out to a wrestling show and Kyle Kaler is on the card, what can folks expect to see?
I like to bring, I guess what you could call high energy. I like to be fun is my thing, you know. that's just who I am personally, and I like to bring that to the wrestling world. I like to show that I'm a little bit of a partier. My character as of right now is I'm known as the Prince of the Raveyard. For people who are not familiar with that terminology, basically it's a rave, it's a party, and I like to bring that to the ring into what I do in the world of professional wrestling.
Okay. Now you are in there amongst people of lots of different shapes and sizes. One of the guys I've had in here before is Drex Odell, who's a behemoth of a man. You are very agile. I don't want to say small, but like a silhouette of you is not going to be a Hulk Hogan looking guy. I hope I'm saying this right and it's not sounding
you're
bad.
right.
But so it seems like you can use that to your advantage in some cases. And how do you do that?
In terms of size, I am people would say a lot smaller than most guys. Not your typical professional wrestler build per se, but what I do bring and what I can do is I can be faster than you. And one thing that helps me too is I have good stamina, at least more so than some of these bigger guys where, not that they don't have stamina, but they're bigger, so they're going to, exert a lot more energy than I would. So typically what I like to say is if I can escape you for the first 5 minutes, I'm going to have a lot easier time in the rest of the match.
Mm-hmm. And as an observer, for me, that's a lot of times what makes the most interesting matches is when there's a really different dynamic between the folks that are in there, because you can, if you watch wrestling on TV, a lot of times you're going to get, just two big guys lumbering around and slugging it out, and that doesn't stay interesting a while. But when you have, somebody who's just over the top muscular and 6.5 feet tall against somebody who's quick and and wily and smart about things, that's, to me, that's the most fun you can have, telling a story.
Absolutely, I agree. And in terms of telling that story of I guess you could say Big Goliath versus Little David, it's a fun story to tell. It's an easy story to tell as a wrestler. I have fun doing it, honestly. Now, when I go up against a bigger guy, like you mentioned, a Drexler Dell or someone who I've feuded with in ACW, being a TK0, I enjoy those matches.
I'm going to have to interrupt you here because you said TK0, so... Okay, go ahead.
That was appropriate, but like I said, going against a guy I've feuded with in TK0, it's those matches I have fun with, because where I'll get most of my, I guess, fan base is from, getting that sympathy of, oh, this TK0 character, he's just going to crush this smaller guy and it'll be a cakewalk for him. And I bring that energy and that fire and that, hope people want to see in seeing David beat Goliath. And that's a fun thing for me to get to do, and a fun story I get to tell with that.
And it's a universal story, and I think it helps people get behind you.
Absolutely.
In your matches. So what made you decide that this is what you wanted to do a year or two ago when it all started?
I've always had a love for, watching professional wrestling on TV, be it WWE, WCW, whatever the case. So I've always had that passion. I've always had that love for it. And one moment that sticks out in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other people's minds who follow or watch professional wrestling, would be, I believe it was WrestleMania 17. I think it was the second ever TLC match with the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian. And seeing that image of Edge jumping off the ladder, spearing Jeff Hardy, who was hanging from the belts above the ring. One of the most iconic images, one of the most iconic moments, at least in my eyes, in professional wrestling. I saw that as a 4 or 5 year old kid and was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I want to do that. And I guess now that I'm in the business, being that looking back as that small child who was so, and fascinated with that, I want to give, back, and I want to give someone else that moment looking back where they can look at something I did or see something I did and just go, wow, I am in love with whatever this is. So that was my motivation. That was my passion for it.
And immediately you started wanting to be the person giving the spear, not the person taking it, right?
Of course.
Do you? I'm assuming you have good family support. I don't know if you have, parents, siblings, whoever's at home.
My parents have been super supportive. My mom and I guess my dad, in a way, were skeptical starting out. They weren't really sure. They were like, I don't know. This seems weird. This seems crazy. But my dad actually was the one who got me started watching wrestling.
It's his fault.
It is his fault. He did it to himself. But they are really supportive. After seeing my first couple matches, after seeing that, hey, I can do this, I am putting my mind to this, I am dedicated to this, they have been really supportive, and they push me to be happy and be the best performer I can be.
Great. That's terrific. So you're sporting your ACW shirt.
Yes,
and
I am.
ACW, Acme Championship Wrestling, is where I've seen you the most. I've seen you several times in different places around here, but that, to me, that kind of seems like your home base, at least right around here.
Yes.
What other feds or whatever promotions have you worked in around here? Around
here, in this area in Northwest Indiana, I've been to Fire Pro, which ran out of Maryville.
Mm-hmm.
I was also at Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling, which ran here in Valpo at Inman's. Then I've also been at NGW, which is kind of in this area from Lafayette.
Uh-huh.
But those are really the only ones I've stuck to around here. ACW I've been at the most, which goes a couple different places there in DeMott, there in Whiting a couple times. But ACW has been a home for me. It was the first promotion I wrestled at after graduating from the school I did, which was School of Rock in Lafayette. So they really gave me my first, I guess, chance around here and a opportunity to show what I can do and to entertain their fans. And I've loved working for them. Every show I've done has been a pleasure, and they're just really good people out of there.
Mm-hmm. It almost seems like that ACW is sort of the adopted wrestling promotion of WVLP here, because I've had very good luck and very good times bringing in several people from that promotion to talk on the air, and pretty soon I'll hit the reset button and go back to the start of the list again and start bringing folks in. But I did just want to put in a plug for the shirt. So Michael Allen, if you're listening, Kyler is doing a good job representing the promotion. He's wearing the gear. So, whatever match he was supposed to have next, bump it up a little bit on the card, give it a higher profile, whatever it takes, because he's doing his job. Now, there's an ACW show coming up not too long from now, so it's December 8th, Winter Warfare 5. Do you have any information that you're allowed to share about who you might, if you're going to be on that card? Who you might be facing, anything, any good juice?
I'll be honest, I don't really have a whole lot of information myself on the show. I do know I will be there. I will be on the card doing what I do and hopefully picking up another victory. My last victory there and the last show I had was against TK0. After a couple losses to him, I was finally able to pull through, finally able to get the victory against him. So I hope to keep that momentum and hope to keep that win train going and eventually earn myself a title shot.
Is there anybody in that promotion that you have not had a match with yet that you would like to?
There are a couple guys. Austin Fury is one of those guys. He's a guy I know, I wouldn't say too well personally, but I do talk to him outside of wrestling. Then another one would be Drex Odell. I actually have not had a match with him yet. And I think it'd be fun too. I think we'd create a cool dynamic, as well as me and Austin Fury would. Us being two smaller guys, we could do, whatever we do, and hopefully it'd work out. But those would be the two main guys that stick out in my head, would be Austin and Drex.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, as long as we're talking about shows that are coming up soon, I do want to mention another show that's going to be in this area soon, and it's coming up actually at the end of this week. So it's Friday, December 1st, and it's Black Label Pro. This
Yep.
is their third event now in this area. They'll be at Crown Point, your home base.
Yep.
And the event is called First of the Month, THA for the month. I'll have to talk to Mikey about that one. But Mikey Blanton he's been a guest here before, and he was planning on either visiting or calling in to kind of just give us a rundown about that card. But unfortunately, he is under the weather. So Mikey, if you're out there, I hope you feel better. And he asked since he's in a fugue of NyQuil at the moment, he wouldn't say anything cogent about, and it'd probably say bad things that would make people not want to go there. So he just said, hey, if you can, just drop a mention of the event and direct people to Facebook. So for those of you that are looking for wrestling shows to go to, of course, we have Winter Warfare 5 on December 8th coming up, ACW, but also December 1st, Friday, December 1st, Black Label Pro, first of the month. It is the culmination of the Darkest Timeline Championship Tournament, and so it's going to be AJ Gray against Filthy Tom Lawler to crown the first Black Label Pro champion, and lots of other good matches on the card. But you can go to Facebook and just search on Black Label Pro to find the Black Label Pro Facebook. If you search on First of the Month, THA, the month, you will get taken to the event page, and you can say you're interested in it and get any updates, or just browse around the Black Label Pro Facebook page for more information about some of the matches that will be on the show. So I just wanted to put that out there. So there we go. And as long as I've sort of detoured away from talking about Kyle for a couple of minutes, it is also the bottom of the hour, 9:31. So I need to mention that this is WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana. The name of this show right now is the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. And now it is definitely time to return to talking to Kyle, who's sitting here just waiting patiently again to get back on the mic. So I've totally lost my train of thought. Okay. So sort of speaking of yet more other promotions, it was really cool that I attended the ARW Pro card this past Wednesday, the Black and Blue Wednesday that they had. This kind of, it seems like their annual wrap-up show, sort of. And you were there, and you were just in the audience enjoying yourself, and I love to see that. I love seeing people in whatever endeavor that it is out there supporting other people that are doing the same thing. When I go to metal shows in Chicago, I love it when people from bands that aren't performing are in the audience supporting other bands. So do you get to do that a lot?
I honestly don't go to a lot of other shows, ARW. I have been to a few of their shows. I attended, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 last year, while I was still undergoing training, because I had a friend, Dakota Boyer, at the time who worked out there. So I would go support him and support ARW. And they put on a good show. I enjoy the people out there. I have had the opportunity to meet and talk to Joey Boom Boom. So it's a good promotion. I do enjoy supporting, other people, even when I'm not, necessarily on the card or on the show or whatever. It is fun for me to go out and see what other people are doing. And a lot of what I do is I'll travel around different states, and I'll get around different places, and I may not be booked on the card, but I'll go, search out seminars, different places to learn, or whatever I can do to, just get my name out there and let people know, hey, I'm dedicated to this, I'm passionate about this, and this is what I'm going to do one way or another.
So what did one of your Fire Pro pals, Richie Rothschild, was on this card at ARW? That was his debut at ARW, right? Had he been there before?
Not that I'm aware of. He had not been there, but yeah, I did have a match with him at Fire Pro. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way I wanted, but I was happy to see him there.
It was an interesting match. It was the first match on the card, and he was in a tag team with Punisher 747. Yes. And Richie he can be a strange bird when he's in the ring, and I think Punisher 747 had decided enough was enough. Richie went for a tag, and Punisher just said, you know, never, no more of this. I'm out of here.
That I saw. That was interesting, and I felt bad for Richie, but you know, you can only put up with him for so long, I guess.
Maybe we'll have to bring him in for a rebuttal on that.
All right.
I'm not trying to cause trouble, but yeah, he would be
Right.
fun to have in here someday. So let's get out of Northwest Indiana, because you did mention, you know, that you do like to go other places, and so just very recently you've been quite the road warrior. In fact, you just made a long trip. So tell
I
everybody
did.
about that.
It wasn't this past weekend, but the weekend before, I shot down to Kansas City. I was in Missouri at National Wrestling League.
Is that how they say it, wrestling, and they spell
is.
it like that too?
Yes, it's National Wrestling League, and
You do good with that.
they had a seminar with Mike Quackenbush. I don't know if you're familiar with the name. He was a top independent star for several years, and I got the opportunity to go and travel and learn with him and train with him for a few hours down there. So that was very fun, very exciting for me to get to do. Then I shot up towards North Dakota, and I did Fully Loaded Wrestling up there, which I had a triple threat match up there. It was a good, fun match, enjoyable time. And then that was Friday was the seminar, and then Saturday in North Dakota was the show. So I had quite the trip, quite the journey there, and it was fun. Like I said, I enjoy the road, I enjoy traveling, and it's something I've always wanted to do, so I love to do it.
How do you get on the radar of a promotion in North Dakota?
It's a lot of networking, a lot of just talking to other people, meeting other people. Even if it's just a handshake and hi, I'm Kyle, go add the person on Facebook, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'll be. And they'll say, hey, we need a guy for this show up here. Hey, we have an extra seat in a car. You want to go with us? And that's a lot of what I do, and that's a lot of how I get out to other states. Is I have a good group of people who I network with and who I travel with, and it's just a fun time getting a group of guys in a car and driving, 10 plus hours wherever it may be.
Mm-hmm. And before we went on the air, you were talking about other trips you've made. You've done quite a coverage of the East Coast.
Yes, states I've wrestled in. I think I've been in 7 different states now. I've been out east to North Carolina. I've wrestled in West Virginia, wrestled in Pennsylvania, Florida. I've been down to Alabama, more southern. I've also been in Tennessee. Trying to think, Ohio.
Well, that's not very far.
No, Ohio's not far, but those are some of the places I've been. I think I cover it all. If not, you can add me on Facebook, and I have everywhere I've been, everything I've done on my Facebook page.
But no death matches yet.
Oh, no death matches, no. That's more of an Adam Bueller thing, who's from this area. But it's not that I wouldn't do a death match. I've just not had the opportunity, and I don't feel comfortable or confident enough to be able to say, oh, yes, I can do this, and, go about it confidently.
Yes, please hit me in the face with a fluorescent light tube.
Exactly. So it would be something I dabble in, but not make a career out of, per se.
Sure. What is the biggest crowd that you've ended up in front of, whether it's been here locally or in one of the trips you've made?
I think, trying to think back, the biggest crowd I probably had was at New South in Alabama. I think the town was Hartselle, Alabama, for New South Pro Wrestling, which is a good promotion down there. I was in a 26-man battle royal, so it was quite the match, quite the experience, but it was a fun show. And if I had to guess the number of people, I'd say it would be anywhere between 200 to 250.
Okay.
So that would be my largest crowd so far.
What's the smallest one been?
I won't say the name of the promotion, but
Sure.
I will say the crowd was probably 50 or less.
Okay.
And that was here in this area.
Does that matter much? And if so, how much?
It doesn't matter to me as a performer, whether it's 10 people showing up or whether it's 10,000 people showing up. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the best I can no matter who shows up, because the way I see it, whether it's 10 or whether it's 10,000, however many people you have there, unless paid for a ticket and paid to come see what you do, and every one of those people deserves a good show and deserves the best you can give them, because they did take time out of their day to come support you and come see what you do. Like I said, whether it's 10 people there or whether it's 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it doesn't matter. Some guys might say, I'll just, go half speed, whatever, and it'll be fine. But me, I'm going to do whatever I can, especially because the promoter took the time to contact me and bring me out to their show. So I want to put on a good show for the promoter too, for having faith in me and for having faith to, put me on that stage.
And I'm trying to remember my geography here, between Alabama and North Dakota. I'm guessing one of those two is probably the longest distance that you've traveled.
North Dakota is the farthest I've been. From my drive from here to Kansas, because I went to Kansas before I went to North Dakota, was about, I want to say, 10 to 12 hours. Then my drive from Kansas to North Dakota was another 12 to 15.
Okay.
So that was the longest all-round trip I've made so far, which, again, was a blast, and I have fun traveling, whether it's 2 hours or whether it's 15, 18 hours. But actually the furthest down I've been is to Florida, because I've also been down there too.
Okay.
So Florida, I think, is about an 18-hour drive, so I have been down there. But the longest all-round trip would probably be when I went to Kansas and then to North Dakota and then back home.
So in all the traveling that you've done recently and the seminar that you went to, is there any one thing that you can think of that was like the coolest thing that you learned? Either a new move or a new way to look at things, or just some revelation that somebody gave you or that you had that you didn't have already?
I guess one of the coolest things I've learned was it was at a seminar with Mike Quackenbush, and it was a new move, and a lot of guys may not know this, but Mike Quackenbush is the man of 10,000 holds. I think I'm saying that right.
Uh-huh.
He is a technical master, to say the least, and I guess it's sad because a lot of people may not know him, because most people who just watch wrestling casually only know about WWE and about what they do. And since he hasn't been on that stage, a lot of people don't know him. But he is one of the best technical masters, I'd say, of all time in our business. And I did learn a cool new chain wrestling technique and a cool, different submission moves, stuff like that. So I did enjoy that experience a lot. Some other seminars I've done, however, were with Ultimo Dragon.
Oh, boy.
And that was exciting. That was really fun. He had his manager, Sonny Ono, there translating for him.
Wow.
So that was quite the experience. That was really fun as well. But I've also done a seminar with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who was awesome just to learn from. And, those are just guys you grow up idolizing and guys you hopefully want to one day be, or at least be in their shoes and in their position. So it has been quite the journey for me so far.
What is your favorite move to do to somebody?
That would be, I guess, what I would consider my signature move, which is most commonly known as Eat the Feet, but my version of it is Soul Food. I've hit it on TK a couple times, so he knows he knows very well what that move is. It's basically a stunner that I do with my foot, so it's cool, it's fun. I enjoy doing that one.
Is that, I'm trying to remember, is that where you're kind of, you fall backwards and land on your back, but your leg and feet are extended upwards?
Yes.
In their jaws, just in the right place
Yep.
at the right time.
That is the one, and that's one that I am confident with. It's one I enjoy doing. Another one that I enjoy is that I don't hit as often, but I can do, is a famouser that Billy Gunn used to do. And that's also fun.
What is your least favorite move to have done to you?
That's got to be TK's backbreaker. I've been hit with it so many times. I'm just kind of sick of it. I'm over it. I'm like, I mean, I'm sure it's cool to him, but to me, I'm like, don't do it.
Are there any moves that are just very standard and routine as part of the ebb and flow of a match? You expect that they're going to happen to you, and you're like, I can't.
A move a lot of guys do is, the basic clothesline, which I don't mind. It's not a hard move to take. It's not like it's something I'm like, oh, you're going to throw a clothesline. It's more of like, oh, you do a clothesline too, because so does everyone else, which is why I like to throw a different version, which is a leg lariat. It's where I'll jump up and hit them with my leg instead of, coming across with the arm. So I like to throw my twist in version on it. And there are some people who can throw clotheslines and make them look devastating, but most of the time it's just, oh, you do another clothesline, cool.
Okay. You want to take a break from this kind of questions and play the 10 question game?
Sure, go for
I
it.
don't know if you've heard me do this with anybody else, but here at WVLP, we try to get to the bottom of people's psychology and what really makes people tick. And so I come in armed with a set of questions to ask folks. So these are just either or questions, and you can answer from whatever point of view that you want. Okay, but these are very important, so don't take this lightly.
Okay.
All right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Good for you. Good man. Okay, that's one in your favor. Chili cheese dogs or Chicago style dogs?
Chili cheese.
All right, you're 2 for 2. My daughter has just decided she loves Chicago-style dogs, so we're going to be making a lot of trips to Valpo Viennas soon.
All right.
Okay, speaking of moves and clotheslines, would you rather take a clothesline from Drex Odell or a flying elbow from Jeremy Hadley?
I'll take the flying elbow.
If you had to have one as a tag team partner, TK0 or Cliff Caviar?
Oh my gosh, why are you doing this? I'd say TK. I feel more comfortable. I mean, I know I'm a smaller guy, but I feel more comfortable with the bigger guy backing me up.
Okay, there you go. That's fair. Going fishing or going to amusement parks?
Amusement park.
A time limit draw or a double DQ finish if the match has to end without a winner?
What were the options? Double DQ?
Double DQ or a time limit draw?
I like to see the time limit draw. It's something that a lot of people do or utilize, so a time limit draw would be fun.
Okay. But no matches never get announced with time limits, and if they announce one as a time limit, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
PC or console gaming?
Console.
Okay. A quick match with a victory or a long match ending in defeat?
I'd say quick match and victory. Everyone's going for that W.
Okay. Baseball or football?
Football.
And finally, I believe this is number 10. Tables or ladders?
Ladders.
Oh, yeah. Have you done
Absolutely.
one? Have you had a match where you got to break out a ladder or any kind of accessory like that? You've probably done a chair here or there, but anything bigger?
Actually, I've not done any kind of hardcore specialty match like that. It's something obviously I mentioned to you earlier off the air, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. I grew up loving and watching those type of matches, so I would enjoy being in a ladder match, or even if it was a table match, whatever. Speaking of which, we mentioned ACW earlier. I might hopefully get the opportunity to wrestle for that Tough Man Championship, and maybe I'll break out something there.
Is Crimson Dynamo still holding that right now?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So in wrestling matches, I should make this a new thing. I'll always ask everybody, every time somebody's in here, I'll ask a why question having to do with wrestling. Why is it that every match is announced as having one fall, when every match has one fall just about, but they don't do time limits anymore? Why is that?
I have no idea. I guess the psychology behind it would be there are other matches with stipulations where you could have 2 out of 3 falls,
Sure.
or you could have this is a submission match, or last man standing, whatever stipulation you want to break out. So the one fall to a finish thing, I don't know how or why it got started, but I guess it's just something we have to deal with.
Yeah, I suppose so. It gives the crowd a good chance to join in.
And
One fall.
Right. And I guess in a way, too, it makes it feel like more of an actual fight, you know, more of an actual wrestling match. Because if you were to watch, you know, a high school or a collegiate wrestling match, their scoring is weird and different, and I never did it or understood it. But you could take something away from that where this is a different style of wrestling, and you don't want people to get the two mixed up. Not that anyone would, but that's just what I think. That's just an opinion.
Okay. Well, time is starting to get kind of short, so I have a couple of other questions, and then if there's anything that you were hoping I would ask that I haven't, or you wanted to talk about, you'll have the floor. But so I wanted to ask you, what do you do to relax when you're not punching people in the face?
Honestly, I just relax. I lay on my couch and watch Netflix most of the time. I mean, whenever I'm not, you know,
Covered in ice packs, right?
yeah, exactly. Whenever I'm not traveling or, you know, trying to stay awake on the road or, you know, hitting people or getting hit, whatever the case may be, I do just like to relax, enjoy some Netflix. Some of my favorite shows are Parks and Recreation. I just recently started Master of None that's on there with Aziz Ansari. I also like stand-up comedy, and it's one thing I've thought about going into or dabbling with myself. But, you know, that's just me and what I do. So I guess, you know, like I said, watch TV shows, watch stand-up comedy, that type of thing is normally what I like to do.
Pretty sedate.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because you've got the two extreme ends of the
Right.
of the spectrum. Okay, and how can folks keep up with Kyle Kaler, the Prince of the Raveyard?
Yes.
Social media, things like that. What can people do?
Social media, I'm on Facebook just as Kyle Kaler. You can find me there. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. If you go to my Facebook page, the links to my Instagram and Twitter are on there. But most of what I do and most of where you'll find me is on Facebook. So that's the first place I'll send people, and then you can connect to me in other ways through that. Like I said, I do have Instagram and Twitter that I don't use as much. So my main social media page would be my Facebook page. You can find me as Kyle Kaler on there.
And that's Kaylor.
Yes, Kaylor. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can all go through all that.
Okay. And everybody should come out to the ACW Winter Warfare 5
Absolutely.
in a couple of weekends, Saturday, December 8th.
Yes, Saturday. I think it's Friday, actually.
Is that a Friday?
It is.
It is, because first of the month is a Friday, so that's December 1st, so that would make sense
So-
that December 8th is a Friday. So
Friday, December 8th, Winter Warfare. I will be there. Again, I don't know who I will be wrestling, but whoever it is, I'm sure it'll be a fun, good match. And like I said, hopefully carrying on my momentum after a win against TK0 at the last show.
there we go. Well, best of luck with that. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want people to know about in the world of Kyle Kaler?
I mean, there's not a whole lot we didn't cover, but, you know, like I said, I do travel a lot. I do go places, and you'll find that on my social media, where I'll post, or at least do my best to keep up with where I'm going, where I'll be, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Alabama, North Carolina, other places I mentioned. So, you know, follow me on social media, and you'll get all the updates on where I'll be throughout the month, the year, whatever.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks for coming in and having a good chat. Best of luck
Absolutely.
at the next event.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And over the next couple of weeks, as we get into December, I've got Nick Cutler and Adam Bueller coming up as guests here. This has been the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. Thanks for tuning in, and come on back next weekend for the same thing. As we wind down the last few minutes of the hour, I want to remind listeners about our webpage. So we are WVLP at 103.1 FM, and we have had a web page for a long time. It's WVLP.org. Now there's an extra feature on that web page, WVLP.org/support, where you can go there and, if you are so inclined, help out with showing your support of the station, either financially or by volunteering. Maybe you have an idea for a show. There's contact information there. There's all sorts of ways to get involved. But we are launching this fundraising campaign over the next few weeks. So you'll hear about that URL quite a bit. You'll hear us all asking you kindly to go check it out and consider what kind of support you might be able to offer, either a one-time thing or a recurring thing, whatever it takes. So keep that radio station tuned to WVLP. There's about 5 minutes for the top of the hour, so I am just going to slide in a little bit of saga to ease us out of the hour, and then hopefully at 10 o'clock you will hear a replay of Punk Rock Radio.
You wanna stop what you've got, you can work till dawn, when will it stop?